You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
We all have smartphones, and we all know they're pretty amazing, but they also can be amazingly distracting, especially when we're around other people. So US Cellular wants us to reset our relationship with our phones by putting down our phones for $5. That's right, a company that sells phones wants us to put down our phones. And to see what we find, learn more at uscellular.com/built for us.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, I do want to kind of do a quick second pass through, just a couple little news and notesy things on the schedule release. Do want to look at things like strength of schedule and rest and all that good stuff that everybody loves to talk about. Other notes around the NFC North, NFL, whatever. A couple little housekeeping things. But I want to start with the schedule release video by the Green Bay Packers. Let's just get that out of the way. I want to get it done and over with fast because you're not going to like it. My perception from poking around is that it was very popular among Packers fans, the schedule release video with a panel that was Jair and Preston and Jordan, and then just a bunch of different people coming in with cameos. Let me put it this way. I think the idea is a 10 out of 10. Well, maybe not a 10. I don't fully understand everything about it. I mean, I guess the concept is we're trying to find the right person, kind of like a talent show thing. We're trying to find the right person to do the schedule release. Some of the cameos were great. The execution overall was a freaking -5 out of 10. It was cringeworthy and uncomfortable and stupid. I freaking hated it. It was over the top. They tried so hard to make it like the greatest thing, and it was just not great. The forced acting was just the worst thing ever. I thought, a lot of the cameos were good because it was kind of real. Like Elton Jenkins, I really liked Elton Jenkins. He just came in, he was himself, it was normal. The way that they tried to get Jair and Preston and Jordan, whoever was directing it, when they were giving them directions, they should have went back and looked at it and said, this isn't working. This isn't working. Like we're trying to force them to, like, we have this vision of what we think it's going to look like, but trying to force them to act is painfully uncomfortable. We need like more natural reactions from these guys. Like just do Jair stuff. Say whatever. It was so bad. Again, there were a couple little cameo things that were pretty good, but it just felt like it got ruined every single time it went back to the panel and they were doing like their two thumbs. You know what it reminded me of? When I was a little kid, I was probably, 5 years old or whatever, we went to Universal Studios. And they used to have these things, I don't know if they still do or what, but they used to have these things where you could like make a movie. We made a Star Trek movie. It was me and my dad and my grandma and grandpa. I'm not sure if anybody else was in it. That might have been it. But it was like, the acting is so bad. And then, you know what that is like? It's a little kid's family movie. It's kind of funny, whatever, but this could have been so much better. And then it ended with like the actual schedule release was an instant replay where Don Makowski, the Magic Man, kind of revealed it. And then they did like a replay. They were trying to see as we're just grinding our way through this cringy, like, oh, flag on the play. Let's go back and I don't know. That's a penalty. And then they rewind it in slow-mo and then they show the schedule and like, that's it. That was the release. After all this, the culmination is We're going to rewind it and be like, oh, there it is. That's the whole thing. End of video. What? Like, yeah, that's what we came up with. Don Makowski is going to magically make the schedule appear. We're going to make these guys say random weird things about it. Like, that was schedule interference. Like, oh, God, shut up. And that was it. It coulda, woulda, shoulda been so much better. I think there was a good concept in there somewhere. Again, a lot of the cameos were very good because it felt real. The panel was awful. Hated it. And then the final release of how we actually got the schedule feels like there was no thought put into that whatsoever. Like, they came up with an idea of how we can make a funny video, and then at the end we're like, oh, wait, we're supposed to do like a schedule release. Like, how does this tie into a schedule? Like, oh, shoot, I don't know. Let's just flash it on the screen at the end. Like, oh, God. That sucked. I'm sorry. It sucked. I did see one article that had the 2024 NFL schedule releases ranked by a girlfriend who has no clue what's going on, which I think is a somewhat fair and impartial way to do this. Although there's going to be a lot of inside jokes, so I don't know if that's the best way. It's tough. Anyways, the random girlfriend who has no idea what's going on ranked the Packers 20th, and I didn't see any of the other videos, so I couldn't really say how that fits, but of the ones I did watch, which might have just been the Chargers, I can't remember. Oh, I think I watched, who's the one that did, like, I think it was the Titans. Titans just redid their video from last year, which was super lazy, and it just wasn't funny this time. Like, it's like if they would have just done it again, I think it would have been fine, but they tried to do it again with a twist, and the twist was stupid. But, yeah, they had them ranked 26. But that's all I saw, and it was the worst ranking of all the other NFC North videos, and I didn't see what the Lions, Vikings, or Bears did. I should go look at it, because I'm sure they're crapping on the Packers, and that would be... The Bears got the highest marks of any NFC North teams. They ranked 10th, Vikings were 14th, Lions were 17th, Packers were 20th. I saw in the comments of the schedule release, Bears fans like, oh, the Bears video was better, and I haven't even seen the Bears video, but I bet you're right. As for some just kind of general housekeeping type of stuff, there was some news, not really news, I guess, but some rumblings about the Justin Jefferson contract. I don't think any of it is massively surprising, but there's obviously always some concern about, are we going to get the deal done? It's kind of similar to Jordan Love. Some people are going to put it out there that, oh, what if? It's like, bro, they're going to pay the guy, just relax. But I guess Justin Jefferson is due $19.7 million in 2024 on his fifth-year rookie option, but would become a free agent after the season without an extension. Talking about it, head coach O'Connell says, I know everything's going to get worked out there. Justin knows we love the love and admiration that I have for him, and he knows he's such a big part of what we do around here. That's on the field, that's off the field. He brings such great energy to our building every single day. Kwesi says, either way, whenever we sign him, we want Justin to have his whole week. I think Justin would deserve his whole month if we signed a contract to celebrate it. We're excited to work towards it. We're going to keep going. You can't have all these plans when you talk about these visions and not talk about King Linchpin, so we're going to keep working toward that end goal. I don't know what the heck he's talking about. And I'll be honest, I would cringe if my GM was like, yeah, once we get this contract done, I'm going to give you a month off. What? What? Well, I was kidding about a month, but I meant a week. What are you talking about? Who's taking time off? Usually you do these things and it's like, we're going to give you a bunch of money because you're such a hard worker. And we know that once we pay you, you're just going to get right back to work and you're going to be right back in the building. And Kwesi's like, bro, I know what you want. You want time away, right? Huh? What do you think, big guy? We sign you and then you don't have to come in like on weekends. It's a joke. Take midweek vacations. We'll fly you down to Cabo. Bro, no, play harder. We need you here. Your reward is the money, not time off. I don't know what you're talking about. Say stupid stuff like that. But of course, as wouldn't be necessarily a surprise, the Justin Jefferson deal is expected to reset the wide receiver market. Anything less than that, and Kwesi would suddenly have to take 10 jumps up wherever you have him ranked, because Justin Jefferson is going to reset the market. As of right now, A.J. Brown is the highest paid wide receiver, and that's at $32 million per year. So we're kind of looking at a minimum of $33 million a year. Not really sure if they're looking north of that, cracking 35, maybe 32.5. I don't know. But, again, I don't usually get too hung up on, you're going to have to pay somebody, so you're going to suck. I mean, look, paying somebody means you have good players. It's a part of the process. Good teams pay good players, and they continue to thrive. But at the same time, it's a massive benefit that's going bye-bye. And for a team that's already struggling, for a team that we're looking at going, boy, if they could win 6 games, that'd be a heck of a year. To look at them and say they don't even have to pay anybody right now, but pretty soon guys like Justin Jefferson are going to start getting massive payments. It's like, that's kind of crazy. I want to dive down the Brock Purdy pathway, but I want to save that for another day. But, again, like with the Jordan Love thing, like, oh, yeah, just wait, you're going to have to pay Jordan Love. Like, wait for what? This team isn't built on having $100 million in free agency. There isn't some massive benefit that goes bye-bye. The Packers never do anything in free agency. They're not going to cut people because of somebody's contract. Everybody they want to stay is going to get paid. So stuff like that doesn't really matter. When I look at it, honestly, the biggest one in the NFC North is the Bears. Why? Because they build their entire team through free agency, which first of all is just a crushing strategy to begin with, because you're going to kill yourself from the inside out by not having draft picks. You're just hollowing out your core. But then on top of that, the ones that you actually hit that you want to keep, you're going to have to pay. And so now you don't have any money. Well, now what do you do? Like if Caleb ends up being a good quarterback, granted, it wouldn't matter too much at that point anyways, but at some point, you're going to have to start building through the draft. And if you can't do it, if you can't build unless you either have massive amounts of money to buy other people's talent or have top 3 picks, your team is screwed. So those are the times when I look at it and go, I kind of care. A couple other minor things before I get into, before we expand, I should say, on some of this contract talk, since we're on the contract discussion. First of all, and this is kind of old news, but I might as well talk about it since it's, something I haven't mentioned. Trent Jones, or Trenty, I mean, if his name is Trent, then his parents are, let's just say, silly for putting an E at the end of his name. But he decided to retire due to a long list of injury concerns. So he gone. And finally, Robert Tonyan is now officially a Minnesota Viking. Many of you know Robert Tonyan as the Green Bay Packer. A lot of you even know that in 2023 he was a Chicago Bear, and now in 2024 he will be a Viking. But how many of you remember that his first gig came as an undrafted free agent with the Detroit Lions? That is to say, 2017 he was technically a Lion, before in 2017 moving on to the Green Bay Packers, and then in 2023 Chicago, 2024 Minnesota Vikings. He has done a complete sweep of the NFC North. Not sure what's going to happen in Minnesota in terms of his usage, but considering he's already signed, we're going to go ahead and call it a done deal, and that's pretty impressive stuff. I'm not entirely sure what it is the NFC North sees in him. There must just be something massively appealing about Robert Tonyan that, obviously the Packers really wanted him. They really believed in him, and then it just got to the point where it was like, okay, enough is enough. The Bears are like, are you kidding me? He's so good. And then they went out and got him, and they're like, all right, yeah, I don't know. We'll probably just let him go. Minnesota's like, are you serious? You can't get this guy to work? I don't know. I don't know what it is. But considering they've already got their tight end 1 spot firmly locked up, I don't expect a lot from Tonyan, but we'll be seeing him again around the old block. Anyways, why don't we take a break? Again, we'll come back. I want to look at some contract stuff with the Green Bay Packers. Didn't flow as nicely as I thought it would because I forgot to mention a couple things early, so I interrupted it. But we'll do the contract stuff, and then we'll move on to the scheduling stuff. We'll be right back. We all have smartphones, and we all know they're pretty amazing, but they also can be amazingly distracting, especially when we're around other people. So US Cellular wants us to reset our relationship with our phones by putting down our phones for $5. That's right, a company that sells phones wants us to put down our phones. And to see what we find, learn more at uscellular.com/built-for-us. In the hobby, it's not easy being a fan of ripping packs or repacks. We get all hyped up thinking we're going to get some high-value Jordan Love card, but with zero transparency on available cards and hit rates, it's all just a shot in the dark. Until now. Introducing slab packs from arenaclub.com, the only repack that provides real value, a complete view on all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Now when I buy slab packs on Arena Club, it finally feels like I know what I'm getting. And honestly, the best thing for me and my son is the fact that we're kind of novices into this. When I walk into a card shop with my son, and a card says it costs $40, kind of just taking his word for it that that's a good value. So I appreciate the transparency on grading, as well as just getting excited about seeing what you could potentially get. Right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/packdaddy. Wow, that's crazy offer. 10% off a $400 slab pack. That's $40 right there. Anyways, that's arenaclub.com/packdaddy for 10% off your first purchase.
Jewelry isn't a gift you give just once. It's a way to remind your loved one of a beautiful moment every time they see it. Blue Nile can help you find the gift that says how you feel and says it beautifully, with expert guidance and a wide assortment of jewelry of the highest quality at the best price. Go to BlueNile.com and experience the convenience of shopping Blue Nile, the original online jeweler since 1999. That's BlueNile.com to find the perfect jewelry gift for any occasion. BlueNile.com.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
So a quick update on the rookie contracts. Apparently, at least as of the last that I have seen, all the rookies with the exception of our first and second round picks, that would be Jordan Morgan, Edrin Cooper, Javon Bullard, everybody else has been signed to their contracts. I bring it up because people care, but as I've said before, we shouldn't. 95% of the contract details are already set in stone, and every single one of the contracts is going to get done. So it's not important. The more important contract situation that I wanted to bring up, though, is back to Jordan Love. I know we've hammered this a couple times from a few different angles, but as new things come up, I want to touch on it. And there was a big old bomb that came up that got everybody all stirred up. The heck is the name of this show? Adam Schefter was on ESPN Milwaukee with Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, and talked about the Jordan Love situation. So I just want to, first of all, play what he said, because, again, it's important to actually hear the words, hear the tone of voice, hear the context of what was said, why it was said, when it was said, etc., and then kind of go from there.
So, Adam, the big news this week in the NFL was Jared Goff's contract extension, 4-year, $212 million, $170 million guaranteed. Of course, here in Wisconsin, we start looking at that and going, ooh, how is that going to impact the money that Jordan Love gets? And we argued pretty heavily yesterday on whether or not it will go up and over Jared Goff's number or be under it. What do you think?
Well, I think his number would go above it, and that's if a deal gets done. I think that the longer the Packers wait, the more difficult it'll be for them, and the better it'll be for Jordan Love. That's my own opinion. You know, with each of these deals that gets done, if you had done Jordan Love's deal, let's just say last week, the first time you were eligible, they were eligible to do it, I think, May 3rd, as we discussed, and now it's May 15th. So they've had 12 days on the clock. Goff got done on the 13th, so they had 10 days. Let's just say that they had gotten Jordan Love done on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, whatever. I would have come into Jordan Love with a strong cash offer, a lot of guaranteed money, easy for me to say. The average of, let's just call it 51, 52. Do you think that that number is going down any after Jared Goff's average comes into 53? I'd have to see the structure, but I'm going to guess not. He's not going to take less than Jared Goff. And now we still have deals potentially out there for, Trevor Lawrence, maybe Matthew Stafford, Tua Tagovailoa. If that deal gets done, Dak Prescott's still out there.
So I just want to stop for a second, just before I forget everything. First of all, there's a lot of speculation that the only reason he's doing this radio interview is on behalf of Jordan Love's agent to try to push things in a certain direction. And definitely, if you listen to every answer, it sounds like it's coming from the mouth of David Mulugheta. That's not to say that that's the situation, but to be clear, question was, is it going under or over? I think it's going over. The longer they wait, the more it hurts the Packers. So it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. It's also possible that that's not the case, but he's certainly not speaking on behalf of the Packers. He also very quickly, you may have even missed it, but it was a big part of what everybody's talking about. He at the very beginning slipped in, if a deal even gets done, which we've talked about this a lot in the past, especially going back a couple years when it was Schefter and Rodgers and the whole thing. And there's a whole issue of conflating knowing and speculating, especially when it comes to quote unquote insiders. And I've always, well, not always, but I kind of came to the conclusion that I think most of these guys, they don't lie. But depending on who they are, they may be more interested in allowing you to believe that they know more than they do. And I feel like Schefter's that guy. Ian Rappaport seems like a pretty cool guy to me. He's very laid back. He's very whatever. And he'll just flat out tell you, like, I don't know, man. It's whatever. Schefter likes to say things where you kind of have to listen carefully. And again, he's not outright lying, but it makes it seem like he may be speaking from authority, even though he didn't specifically say that. So anyways, when it gets out, and some of this is on the fault of either writers who are drumming up stuff for clicks or people that don't know how to listen or whatever. But when a guy like Schefter comes out and says, if it even gets done, the automatic assumption, because it's Schefter, is he knows exactly what's going on, and he wouldn't have said that unless there was something wrong and it may not even get done. We have to stop thinking these guys are omniscient. We have to stop thinking they're involved in every single possible meeting. They're not. He has no idea what's going on. He doesn't know what conversations have taken place and how they've gone. Maybe he has little bits of information here and there, but I would assume that he would tell us immediately as soon as he finds out. That's his whole job, is to be the guy that knows. And if he knows and doesn't tell anybody, then there's no point in him even being the guy. That the real power is being able to tell people, I know. So he would come out and say it, unless he's being told he can't, which doesn't make any sense, because again, he's coming out and speculating like crazy. So I can deduce that if he had solid information, he would give it. He hasn't said, I know from a source, or I know based on conversations I've had with people inside the organization or people from Jordan's camp. He didn't say those things because he hasn't had any conversations and he doesn't know. So everything up to this point is pure speculation, to be clear. All right, now on to the specific points. Number one, I've been thinking about this more and more, and I don't know. When it crossed my mind, I felt before like, similar to what Schefter said, the longer they wait, the more it hurts the Packers. And then I kind of thought about it, and it's like, well, that entirely depends on the contracts. Now, the Goff thing threw everybody off, and it's like, oh, man, he's going to get super paid now because that Goff number was high. I don't think it was that high. I think things change if the market shifts. Now, again, a lot of the speculation, well, the market obviously shifted because he's a $45 million guy getting 53 or whatever he got paid. I don't think so. And if these quarterback numbers come in and it's not like, holy crap, and again, I don't think Goff was, that doesn't help Jordan Love. It makes it worse. If Dak Prescott gets 51, 2, 3, he mentioned Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't get a, $55 million contract, which again sounds stupid, but that's not that uncommon. Being stupid, that is. Certainly not that uncommon. And beyond that, I don't think it's true that waiting is going to hurt the Packers. Because similar to where I thought the Packers are screwed when it came to Rodgers, the more you think about it and the more you really, I guess, contemplate all the different angles, the more you realize that Gutekunst always seems to hold the cards. And I think he does here as well. The ultimate trump card here is, if you don't agree, then we just won't get a deal done and you can play out the remainder of the year. I saw, where did I see that? No, I can't find it, but somebody else had speculated something to the effect of, I think it was a Packers content creator, but I don't see a scenario where Mulugheta allows Jordan Love to set foot on a field without a new contract. That puts the pressure not on Jordan Love unless he's willing to sit out, which he's not going to, because what happens when you sit out? Yes, the Packers are screwed and all that. I mean, we're not going to win any football games, granted. There's a couple issues, though. There are 2 quarterbacks waiting in the wings, and if there's a Brock Purdy situation, Jordan Love just lost his job. So that's a risk. But beyond that, Gutekunst is not going to back down. That's what I've said before. The benefit of never backing down is that you can bring your resume to the table and say, you know for a fact I'm not going to back down, so don't even try it. Well, if Jordan doesn't play this year, guess what? It's not like, well, my contract's up, so you owe me a contract now. What happens is the contract is what's called tolled, which is to say it's basically put on pause and then restarted next year, meaning you're still under contract with the Green Bay Packers this year. So you're not going to get paid, your contract does not run out, and you're back on the clock next year. So that's not really an option. Not with a guy like Goot that's not going to blink. So the only other thing you could do is say, because I was thinking about this before when I read that in the article, the idea that they would never allow him to set foot on the field is, well, why would they do that? Because if he goes on the field and he balls out, he's going to make a bunch more money. And I thought about it and I said, no, he's not. The amount more that he's going to make is going to be marginal because he's already going to get paid near the top. So let's say he's at 53. If he balls out, what's he going to get next year? 56? Do you think the Packers give a crap? They would rather let him play out this year and give him 56 the next year because, number one, they're going to have more assurance that he is the guy. He's going to have to demonstrate it. And if he doesn't demonstrate it, he's not getting 56. He's not getting 53 at all. If he regresses, he's not getting that. And if he gets hurt, he gets nothing. The Packers would happily pay an extra $3 million a year to know that they have the guy. Jordan Love holds no cards here. So the only real play in this whole thing is, well, if these quarterbacks all get paid and the number just keeps ramping up, like if it goes from 53 to 55 to 57 because everybody just wants more than the last guy, well, then in that case, yeah, Jordan ends up the last guy. He ends up getting the most money, but that's not necessarily the way that this could go out. This could be handled because so far nobody's really reset the market. The top of the market is 55. They look at Goff and they said, it's a new year. The cap has gone up. However, hey, you ain't that good. So we'll give you 53. So that's strike one. And there's really nobody in line that's a guarantee to be a blockbuster. There's a lot of questions around Tua and Trevor. They talked about who? Oh, Stafford. What do you think they're going to pay Stafford? Give me a break. That guy's not going to, unless it's like a 1 year, $55 million or something. He's not getting any kind of a serious contract, though. He's too broke down. And look, at the end of the day, it doesn't need to be that adversarial because I have a feeling the Packers are willing to pay him a pretty good amount. But I'll just say, so far through this conversation, from what I've heard, I'm not buying it. If the Packers are looking at it and they genuinely believe he's worth about 49, and Jordan's saying, no, we want 55, I want, top of the line, Gutekunst will just hold the line and say, okay, well, then you can just play out this year. And he knows for a fact they won't let that happen. And here's the other thing. Let's say everybody else does reset the market. Let's say all these guys do get massively paid. Jordan Love and David Mulligata come back to the table. They're like, well, sucks for you, buddy. Looks like we got ourselves a new market. Gutekunst just looks him dead in the face and says, 49, I haven't moved. What are your options? The same crap options you had before. You accept it or you don't and you're screwed. Now, there is a line at which it's too low, but assuming the Packers aren't just being wildly unreasonable with the number, assuming they can actually back up the number based on what they're offering, and they'll probably offer a little bit more than the bare minimum of what's reasonable, and they should. But I don't buy this notion any more than I bought the notion that, the Jets held the cards. Bull crap. And I would say the Jets had more leverage, as did Rodgers, than Jordan Love does right now. The Packers have plenty of time. They would happily let him play out this year, and if they can't get it done next year, they'll put him on a franchise tag. And if they can't get it done after that, they got another year of franchise tag. It'd be expensive, but we got 3 years worth of play we can get out of you before we give you your contract. Jordan wants it now. Let's get it behind. Let's do this. Let's get the guy paid. And of course, agents want to be paid. Are you really willing to go toe-to-toe with Gutekunst for 3 years to squabble over $2, $3, $4 million? I don't know.
The numbers on these deals don't go down. They just don't. And so it'll be up to Russ Ball to see if he can get this deal done.
And again, the idea that the numbers don't go down, that's true. The numbers don't go down. As the cap goes up, everything stays the same. But everything just works off of a percentage of the total cap. And everybody knows what the cap is. So we can't act like there's some big surprise, even if the number goes up to 57. Oh man, that just shook everything up. No, it's just a percentage of the total, and that's what the Packers are working with, right? So if a bunch of people get paid and then the top of the quarterback market goes up, the Packers are looking at it going, that's cute. I don't care. Here is the quarterback market. Here is the percentage we're willing to give them, and here's the way in which we're willing to structure it. If you'd like to change the structure, we can work on that, but we're not willing to pay a higher percentage of the salary cap to Jordan Love than this, period. I don't care what everybody else is getting. Unless there's a massive trend to pay more as a percentage to quarterbacks, then that's a discussion. But obviously that didn't happen with Jared Goff. The percentage did go down. If guys a year ago were getting, or a year or even 2 years ago were getting this much, obviously the percentage went down when Jared Goff got it.
Wants to get it done. Don't think that they're anywhere close to getting it done right now. And
this is another one that's like, I don't think they're any, oh my goodness, that's crazy. Like they're super far apart. Oh my, and there's huge issues. This is horrible.
Those are conversations that'll occur here in the days and weeks to come.
Adam, I don't want to.
All right. So before we even move on, just to be clear, he said, I don't think they're even close. Why he would even say that, I don't know, other than he's trying to say inflammatory things based on his own speculations. Why would he speculate that? I have no idea. He even just ended that sentence by saying that these are conversations that'll happen in the days and weeks to come. So, in his mind, the conversations haven't really even kicked off. So why are you speculating that they're not even close? The only thing I could think is he's speculating that the Packers number and Mulugeta's number are very far apart. He doesn't know that, or maybe he does. Maybe he heard it from Mulugeta. I don't know. But that's the only thing that he can deduce from that. But to say that they're not even close to getting done is silly because he has no idea.
I'm a fear monger, so I want to be conscious of, but my anxiety went up as soon as you said, if they get a deal done. I guess I hadn't
why should your anxiety go up? What does it matter? Jim, what are you getting worked up about?
Okay, all right, go ahead, work me through this. I'm happy to have you take my hand and walk me through this, Adam. That's fine. So Packers fans shouldn't have a reaction to if the deal gets done. Because I got to be honest with you, Adam, I think most people were coming to the table thinking it wasn't a matter of if, it was when the Packers were going to sign him to this big extension.
I still think the most likely course of action is that the two sides will figure out a way to get a deal done. It doesn't mean they will. It's not assured. And if they don't, if the Packers don't step up and come up with an offer that they think, that Jordan Love thinks is reasonable, if Jordan Love wants more than the Packers are willing to offer, if one side or another is unable to get this particular deal done and it doesn't get done, then what? Jordan Love goes into the last year of his contract, correct? He's going to the last year right now, I believe.
Yep. Correct.
And so, okay, if they don't get something done and he plays this year without an extension, then they would have the ability after this year to tag him if they wanted. Now, look, you don't want to go down that road. You'd rather not have to do that. You'd want this deal done sooner rather than later. But if it doesn't get done and they can't figure it out, they have the tag available. It's not like he's walking out the door in free agency next year. That's not happening. And, by the way, what if, I mean, we don't think this, but what if he regresses? What if he doesn't play well this year and he's in the last year of the deal and you haven't signed him? Right? There are a lot of questions. Again, to me, it's in both sides' best interest. They've invested an awful lot in him. He's looked like a great young quarterback. He looks like the guy you want to build around. You want to get this deal done, in my mind. Both sides, I think, want to get this deal done in their minds. But right now, they're not close to making it happen. The first quarterback domino of the offseason's fallen. It's giving you some parameters of what you would think that a Jordan Love deal would resemble. And it's up to them to figure out whether or not it makes sense for both sides here moving forward.
All right, so first of all, again, he makes a statement and then it eventually gets clarified, but a lot of people took it and ran with it, right? He said if, right? He didn't say if, like indefinitely. He was saying if for this year, for this season, was what the if was about. And again, I don't think, and he doesn't think, he thinks it's going to get done, to be clear, but I think the main thing here is, who is more scared of the if scenario, the Packers or Jordan Love and Mulugeta? It's not even close. That you could make an argument the Packers would rather go through this season without another year to evaluate Jordan, another year to potentially, I mean, if he gets injured again, you're screwed. But if you don't give him the contract, you're not at all screwed. If he regresses at all, you save money and can give him a more reasonable contract. And if he is the number one quarterback in football, wins MVP and a Super Bowl, the needle barely moves. What is he? He gets top quarterback money. He's basically going to get that anyways. Again, the top is 55. We're saying he's not getting less than 53. Who cares? So what's he going to get, 57? Again, the Packers would happily pay that. They would happily do it. So here's the thing. I think, Schefter now has twice said they're not close. Now, again, I think that's a nonsensical thing to say. However, I think it can appear to be not close based on posturing. Because I think, there's two different ways to handle this. And this is probably why, and I say this, and Jordan's probably going to get paid tomorrow, but this is probably why a lot of quarterbacks are going to fall before Jordan. It's because it's a question of who's going to blink first. If you're scared of paying more, or I should say, let's say you're a team and you're really scared that these numbers are going to keep going up, so you want to rush to the table and get the deal done so that you can be, the next highest and not like the highest, then you got to blink. You got to rush to the table and you got to concede X, Y, and Z. More than likely, what you're going to get out of the Green Bay Packers is the exact opposite of that. Brian Gutekunst is not even going to call. And so this is the period at which neither side is even making contact. Why? Is it because the things are better? No, it's just negotiating. It's posturing. I'm not scared. I got all the time in the world. And if you're David Mulugeta and you're calling and texting every day, we got to get this done. When are we going to get it? You're going to lose. And he knows that. But again, the problem is, in a game of chicken, Gutekunst is going to win. In this scenario, it's not even close. And so, look, it is entirely possible that as the contracts come in and as the numbers go up, that maybe that moves the needle a little bit, but I really don't think so. And I think as much as the contracts going up might try to push things in one direction, the season drawing closer and closer is going to push things in the other direction, which is running back to Brian Gutekunst. And so, listen, I was scared of the Rodgers situation. I was panicking. That was one of the things where I'm looking at Gut and I'm like, look, man, I know how you operate, but I'm freaking out. Can you just get something done here? With this, bro, I could do the Gut thing. I'm not answering the phone calls. I mean, I will come to you and I'll be like, look, whatever. I don't know what the number. Let's just say it's a low-ish number, 48, 49. I would assume that's the very low end of the spectrum. Could be wrong. I don't know. Mulugeta shoots back something along the lines of LOL, try 55. Not even responding. I'm dealing with everything else. I'm not even picking up my phone. And I'm going to let Mulugeta just sit there and go, oh, crap. It's been a whole week. I haven't heard anything. Like, I got to do something. And it's early now. Maybe they both just walk away. They both feel good. But when July, August rolls around, the realization is going to sink in. I've got less than a month to contact Gutekunst to set up times and intense negotiations and be very intentional and serious in this. Otherwise, we're going to be in a situation where Jordan is contractless and the Packers don't care. And if I even dared to walk in and say, this is my final offer, otherwise we're going to play out the season, Gutekunst would just say, okay, sounds good, and walk away, and I'm screwed. Because I'm not willing to do that. By the way, there's always that funny thing of, the Packers have this track record of like releasing the contracts like right before the season starts or whatever. That might just be how they do business. Like they just let the other guy sweat it out until they come rushing back to the table, like a week before week 1 starts. And that may be how this works. Gutekunst is going to sweat them all the way down to like week 3 of the preseason, or possibly week 1 of the preseason if there's fear of him, taking the field at all without a new contract. But again, I'm not trying to position this as the Packers are this evil, horrible organization that are going to offer 30, take it or leave it. I think they do want Jordan to get his money. I think that they're going to try to come up with a reasonable number, but they're not going to try to stiff the guy. They understand that he's deserved it, he's earned it, and this is just how it goes. They've handed out lots of massive contracts to very deserving individuals. So they want to get it done, but they're going to get it done at the number that they want. You know, in other words, the Packers hold the cards insofar as they will be the ones to determine what's fair, and that's what they're going to offer. And, maybe leave a little bit of wiggle room in terms of structuring it or bumping it slightly in your direction, but basically this is it. And I don't really see it moving in any sort of different direction. Just my perspective on it, though. I don't know. And again, I feel like the number's going to be close enough, despite Schefter saying they're not even close. I think they're going to be close enough that they're going to get this done. I don't really think Mulligata actually expects 55. I think the Packers would very easily come up to at least 50. So we're in that like 50 to 54 range. We're already freaking close. Neither side, I don't think, is going to let this thing get to the point where Jordan doesn't get his contract over $2 to $3 million, especially when there's so much wiggle room with structuring and so many different creative ways that Russ Ball can come to the table and figure something out that is beneficial. If the concern, and that's the thing, what are the concerns? Our concern is the lack of understanding of what he can do and all this stuff, and your concern is wanting longevity and maybe wanting a somewhat shorter contract where you can get a new one. We'll figure it out. Like, we'll work this out and we'll find something that's mutually beneficial. When you're that close, there's going to be a way to structure this where both sides are happy, and they're going to do that. It's just a question of, you got to kind of puff your chest out a little bit and let him know who's boss, and that's just how Gutekunst operates, and that's just what he's going to do. It's just a question of whether Mulligata wants to play that game too, or if he's just going to be like, okay, Gut, yeah, I get it, you're the tough guy, now let's work on this contract. All right, anyways, let's take a break and come back and have a little tiny discussion about the Packers' schedule and maybe some other teams. We'll see. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's PG.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
510 declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
All right, let's rip through some NFL scheduling data here. A couple interesting little tidbits that I was able to observe. First of all, apparently there are 9 playoff rematches on the 2024 schedule. I don't even know what year it is. 2 of which are going to be in week 1. You got Ravens-Chiefs and you got Rams-Lions. Chiefs-49ers Super Bowl rematch going to be week 7. Kind of already talked about it, but you got Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels playing week 8, presumably, depending on who the quarterbacks are, I suppose. Kirk Cousins' Falcons debut is going to be at home versus the Steelers, who just brought in Russell Wilson. So we're going to have the Kirk Cousins Falcons against the Russell Wilson Steelers. That's going to be a fun game, just for that reason. It'll be fun for, 5 minutes, and then it's like, all right, this game sucks. Apparently, the Chiefs are going to play games on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this season, which, as you can expect, is a very rare, if ever, occurrence. The 49ers will face a league-high 4 teams coming off of byes this week. The Ravens have league-high 16 more days of rest than their opponents. The Panthers are the only team with no primetime games, and that makes perfect sense. Some NFC North observations. The Packers, Vikings, and Bears all have games overseas this year. Lions being the only ones that don't have an overseas game. Again, we kind of already talked about it, but we went through the schedule but didn't directly address it. It is kind of a crazy thing. It wasn't that long ago. There was one game overseas every year. It was London, and it was going to be the Jaguars and somebody else. Now we're to the point where 3 out of 4 NFC North teams will be playing overseas, and I think all different countries. I'm not sure where the Bears and Vikings are playing. Not looking it up. The Vikings will play 5 of their first 7 games against 2023 playoff teams. Rough. And then the Packers have a tough late season stretch playing 49ers, Dolphins, and Lions on Thursday night in a span of 12 days. And only 2 of their final 5 games are at home. That's one of the big things that people have been talking about with this Packers schedule, is that their sort of win streak and home field advantage thing in December is gonna be tough this year. Tough opponents, tough schedule, a lot of on the road stuff. A couple other things I saw. Kevin Cole, mentioned him a couple times, big stats guy. He pointed out the NFL scheduler is unconvinced Aaron Rodgers will make it through the Jets bye week. And then they highlighted the Jets' primetime games, and they have a ton of primetime games. It might be the most or one of the highest amount of primetime games. They have a primetime game week 1 against the 49ers. Week 3, they're playing Thursday against New England. Week 6 and 7, they're going to be playing. They're going to have a Monday night game against Buffalo, and then a Sunday night game against Pittsburgh. 2 weeks later, week 9, they're playing on Thursday against Houston. 2 weeks later, week 9 or 11, Sunday night against the Colts. 1, 3, 6, 7, 9, 11. They have 6 primetime games in 11 weeks. That's more than half of their games will be primetime games. After their bye week, 0. Weeks 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, not one primetime game. So they wanted the Jets to get a ton of primetime games and front load the living crap out of them. I'm guessing not an accident. There's also people that have looked at the total travel miles or time zones, I guess, that they're going to cross. Oh, they do have mileage as well. So looking from a mileage standpoint, the Chargers are getting screwed the hardest, which I'm sure is normal. When you're one of the coastal teams, it's pretty tough, especially on the West Coast. A lot of the teams are over on the East side. But the Chargers travel 26,800 miles. Then you got Miami, Seattle, New England, San Francisco. Again, a lot of West Coast teams, and then you go over one New England East Coast. The Packers are maybe the first sort of central team, unless you want to include the Miami Dolphins, but I mean, they're way down on the southeast side of things. As far as sort of centralized teams, the Packers, actually the Eagles are a little bit worse, but they've got 22,209 miles. Now, considering they're going to Brazil, it's actually kind of shocking that it's not more than that, which leads me to believe that if you take Brazil out of the equation, they have very little travel to do. But overall, they are 10th in total travel miles and are only traveling or traversing 16 time zones, which is relatively low when you look at the Chargers, who are number 1 at 36. Then Sharp Football Analysis, he does a ton of stuff with this. It's always good to kind of read his sort of annual look back on this, but he looked at strength of schedule, 2024 NFL strength of schedule for the regular season, and it's 2024 NFL strength of schedule based on Vegas forecasted win totals. Now, obviously, this is a better way of doing it than the other way, which is looking backwards, although we're kind of doing that anyways because forecasted win totals are largely based on last year. But it's probably the best possible way that you could do it. The Falcons have by far the easiest schedule. I mean, it's kind of a visual thing. I can't really describe it to you. There's no X or Y axis to give you any numbers or whatever. But if you look at it, it's a pretty, slow, gradual slope down. But if you look at number 1, which is the Falcons, they're just on an island by themselves. The Bears have the 3rd easiest schedule. Then you got to go down quite a ways to the Green Bay Packers, who are 19th. The Lions are 21st, and for whatever reason, the Vikings are just getting screwed super hard, have the 28th easiest schedule. Man. Look, Vikings fans, I'll say this. Maybe this is a good thing for you. If you're not going to win, you might as well lose as many as possible and get some really high picks. You know what I mean? Who knows? Maybe you'll be this year's, Arizona Cardinals? You got a couple teams that are higher than you. They're all going to take quarterbacks. You get the best non-quarterback of the group. I'm just saying. This year, it's not going to be so much fun, though. So the top 5 easiest schedules: Falcons, Chargers, Bears, Jets, Saints. Top 5 hardest schedules from hardest to lesser: Steelers, Patriots, Browns, Ravens, Vikings. So then he kind of attacks it from a different direction here. He's got the NFL strength of schedule based on Vegas forecasted win totals. And he's got a little chart here. You can see this over at sharpfootballanalysis.com. He's got it over there somewhere. But he's got all their teams, their line, which is, sort of the where Vegas sets the line of over or under for win total. So the Falcons are at 9.5. So that's what you're betting on. Now, it's important to note, as we move forward to make this make sense, that doesn't mean the Falcons believe they're going to win 9.5 exactly or whatever. That's just where they have it set. Then they have the odds. So for Atlanta, the line is at 9.5, but the over odds are minus 140, which kind of means that they expect it to be over. And you're like, well, then why don't they set the line at 10? Well, because they think it'll be less than 10. So it's going to be settled somewhere in between is kind of the point. But that's where the final column comes in, which is the implied line. So if you look at the line, for example, with the Falcons at 9.5, and then you incorporate the fact that it's minus 140 odds to hit the over, the implied line is that Vegas kind of sees them sitting at 9.8 wins. So anyways, you take that as sort of the Vegas implied wins total for each team, which, by the way, might as well go through it since he has this nice little chart up here for us. The Chicago Bears are at 8.7 wins. The Minnesota Vikings are sitting at 6.75. Detroit Lions at 10.5. The Green Bay Packers at 10.1. So, honestly, the only things that really stand out, first of all, and I could say I'm surprised by the Vikings, but not really. You know, there's a lot of talk about 4 wins. I had them winning like 3 wins or whatever. But the bottom line is just from a statistical standpoint, it's so rare to get that low. Even if they think you're the worst team in football, it's really unlikely that they're going to put you down super low. Now, there are teams that are down there, but let's see, New England 4.87. Where's Carolina? They got to be real low. Carolina 4.75. But beside that, and again, both of those teams are probably going to be less. I mean, honestly, Carolina, if they had 2 wins, would that be shocking? No. But is Vegas ever going to put a team at 1 to 2 wins? No. Just from statistical variance and all that, it's going to pull more toward the middle. Anyways, the other things that kind of stand out is how close Green Bay and Detroit is. Because I think if you look at most rankings, it's Detroit gets 13, the Packers get 10, or Detroit gets 12 and it's 10 or whatever. But really, it's kind of 10 for both, right? Detroit's at 10.5. The Packers are at 10.1. Vegas views them as very similar. Anyways, I guess that's more or less how the chart gets built. And then he goes on to sort of defend his model. I figure it's interesting to go through it because, you know, it's worth knowing. He says, looking at last season's strength of schedule model, of the 15 teams predicted to have the easiest 2023 schedule, 11 finished with winning records: Saints, Colts, Texans, Lions, Jaguars, Steelers, Packers, Bucks, 49ers, Browns, and Bengals. Of the 15 teams predicted to have the hardest 2023 schedules, only 5 finished with a winning record: Bills, Chiefs, Dolphins, Cowboys, Vikings. Of the 7 teams forecast to have winning records and predicted to have have easier than average schedules, all 7 had winning records. Of the 7 teams forecast to finish below 500 and predicted to have harder than average schedule, all 7 had losing records. So in other words, if you're expected to be a bad team and you have a hard schedule, you're going to have a losing record. If you're a good team with an easy schedule, you're going to have a winning record. So immediately, you look at the Minnesota Vikings. Expected win total of 6.75, and they have the 5th most difficult schedule. They're not going to have a winning record. It's not set in stone. It's not guaranteed, but it's like, you know, the model can't tell you everything, but it's pretty much going to tell you that. Chicago's kind of interesting because they're right on the line. They're at 8.7 wins, and they have the 3rd easiest schedule. So if I were a betting man, I would say the Bears are probably going to have a winning record. Packers and Lions are closer to the middle, so they're not in the top or bottom 7. Then you've got sort of the strength of schedule improvement. So you look at 2023, how difficult was your schedule? And then 2024, how difficult is your schedule? Except in this case, 2023 actual strength of schedule compared to 2024 forecast. So just going through the NFC North here, Chicago Bears in 2023 had the 4th easiest schedule. In 2024, they're expected to have the 3rd easiest. So in terms of their improvement rank, in other words, ranking 1 through 32, improvement, they're 11th, basically broke even more or less. The Detroit Lions 2023 strength of schedule, they had the 13th easiest schedule. Now they rank 21st. So they actually rank 26th in their improvement rank. Now, another way to kind of look at this is if you are really high in the improvement rank, then there's an expectation, you know, leaving everything else aside, the changes that have taken place, an improvement this year. The lower you rank, the worse you're expected to be. The Lions were pretty mediocre. Now they've got a bit of a more difficult schedule. Minnesota Vikings, they were 19th. Now they're 28th, which puts them 27th out of 32 in terms of improvement. The Packers, though, are the worst in the NFC North. They had the 5th easiest schedule last year. They're going to have the 19th easiest schedule this year, which is 29th in terms of essentially having a harder season this year than last year. Buffalo Bills are 30th, Dallas Cowboys 31st, and then Houston Texans 32nd. Those are the only teams that have got projected to have a more difficult road this year compared to last year. But the entire NFC North is actually ranks really low. There are, however, different strength of schedule things. I saw, it looks like the I don't know who put this out, but somebody has the Green Bay Packers as having the 5th most difficult schedule, and it's based on the opponent's win percentage from last year. Again, that's a really stupid way to do this. Not that there's really a great way to do it, but ignoring a lot of context is a really bad way to go about doing that. And I think the Eagles are a really good example of that. I don't think I'm going to delve into it right now. I'll save it for tomorrow, but I was looking at it. It looks like the Eagles are favorited to win that game. And I'm about ready to put a bunch of money on that right now because that's silliness. And I did do a little bit of sleuthing to figure out what went wrong with the Eagles and what we can expect. But I think I'll save that for later. I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.